These wagglers could change your fishing. During the warmer months, when the fish sit high in the water, mugging can be your best option. We all know how effective this can be on the pole, but what happens when those fish drift out of pole range? That's when the mugging waggler can keep you in the competition, resulting in a serious amount of carp. Right then, let's get straight into talking about mugging fish on the waggler. Now, if you're unsure about what mugging fish is, it's basically sight fishing. You can see sitting in front of me now, there's lots of fish below the surface and you're plopping a bait in front of them and they snatch at it. That's how you're trying to catch them. Now, I did mention that this is incredibly popular on the pole, and I think I'll go as far as saying in situations like you've got here, it's probably an unbeatable method on the pole. And I've done a video called The Unbeatable Method and it was doing exactly that. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description and you can work out how to do it on the pole. But this is going to talk about if they go out of pole range, and they quite often do. You'll have 4 or 5 fish really quickly, they drift out and you can't reach them. That's when you need to pick up a waggler rod. But I will go out there and say it is absolutely not as easy, because you haven't got the precision that you've got on a pole. With a pole, you can lower it in front of them, literally almost put it in their mouth, and it's just crazy. With this, it's all about how accurate you are at casting. So it takes a lot of practice. The people who are good at this make it look really easy, but I will say, as effective as it is, it can be a little bit frustrating as well until you get a little bit more used to it. But we'll run through the setup. I've got a couple of different setups with me, and hopefully you'll understand why I've got 2 different setups by the end of this video, because we're going to show you the definite situations where you'd use both. So what we've got today, 31 degrees, incredibly hot. These fish are sitting a few inches below the surface, and that's where my little homemade waggler comes in. If you're probably looking at pellet wagglers before, you're more used to seeing them like this, a conventional pellet waggler, foam pellet waggler. They do the job, and I have got a rig with one of these set up, a little 3 gram one, because their little 3 gram ones are still great for this little dobbin, but not when they're really shallow like they are at the moment and they're not really moving. So my little homemade one comes in because I can literally try and land this on their nose and it makes less of a splash, and that's why I think this one is the one I'm going to start with. Now, it's incredibly easy to set up. I've got, what this is actually a standard 5 gram foam waggler. I've cut it down to literally a third really. So this float that I've got here is probably 1.5 grams-ish, something like that. Coloured it in black just because it's just less spooky, I think. That's not essential, but just for me, that's what I do. And then I attach it with 2 AAAs and a little silicone float attachment. That's all I need. And then I've got an 8-inch hook link with a size 12 hook. So a really incredibly simple rig. But like I said, the reason why I've done a home modification rather than the standard one is because of how these fish are sitting. To catch these fish today, I think our best chance is going to be to literally land it on their nose, and a little AAA, AAA land in front of them is a lot less scary than a 3, 4, 5 gram pellet waggler. We are looking for the quietest possible plop that you can do. So there's lots of fish here in around me close in. I'm going to try and ignore those as hard as it is, because you know, I'm trying to do this. If they weren't there, if they're on the pole, you couldn't do it. So we're going to try and fish further out. Now obviously this is quite a light float. There's limitations to how far it will go, but what you're doing is you're absolutely trying to sight fish. So you're trying to plop it. As I said, I think this is most effective with the float we've got on here. When you land it literally on their nose, a couple of inches in front of them is what I find it's best to do. Fishing about 8 inches deep, and it's the plop and the snatch you're looking for. They hear the plop, they think it's a pellet, and then they just snatch at it and grab it. But this is where I said it's incredibly hard and frustrating sometimes, because let's take this little carp down here, for example. If I was on a pole, I could lower it in and you'd catch it. To do that on a waggler, it's all about casting accuracy. So it does take a few attempts, and the more you get into your session, the more you'll get better at it. You find that you work out how far your waggler's going, how to land it in, and you want to land it in nice and quietly. So you want to stop it before it hits the water, so it makes the quietest possible plop. And like I said, you're trying to plop it right on their noses, not actually hit them with it, because that will spook them. But because this goes in so quietly, if you can put it in just a few inches in front of them, quite often that little tiny noise, the double plop from the float and your pellet, is all it needs for one to grab it. So, oh, that was a good one. You can almost tell when it's you think they're going to grab it, because they stop and pause, but it didn't, it swam off. So yeah, it's a very repetitive method. There's no feeding. It's literally sight fishing. There's lots of them to cast at, I must admit. And it's just very repetitive. You can keep going. I'm probably never ever leaving a cast any longer than 10 seconds, because you can see the fish that you're fishing for. If they swim away after you've cast it in front of them, you may as well wind it in and try and plop it in front of another one, because you don't just want to hang a bait there, because that is pure luck fishing. If you just cast it out there and leave it, you are just waiting for a bit of luck to happen. This is all about staying active, staying mobile, pick which one you want to try and catch and plop it in front of them. And that's what I'm going to try and do now, and see if we can fool one of these fish when they don't really want to eat. Can you make them grab it? And that's how you catch a good weight of fish, when they're sitting just like this under the surface. There we go. That took a few minutes, but like I said, try not to get frustrated with yourself with the casting. It's something, it's just going to take practice. You're going to have a lot of failed attempts, but think it is a bit of a training session. Every time you cast in, you're trying to get more and more accurate, and it's just about, like I said, plop it in front of one. This time there's actually a group of 3 or 4 fish. Sometimes that's a bit easier, and you can just cast it in amongst them rather than get it right on one's nose. But yeah, it is a little bit frustrating trying to be as accurate as you possibly can. But like I said, change your mindset. Think as if you're just training. You're getting yourself more accurate every time, and then before you know it, you know, after a few hours fishing, you're getting really accurate, and you're definitely increasing your catch rate. It's a definite practice makes perfect. That is a wicked carp, isn't it? Little ghosty type one. You can see why you can sight fish those, because they stand out in amongst this green coloured water. They're very, very easy to see. So that helps, well, it helps me, but it doesn't help them being a fish when they're really bright and easy to see. So let's go out there again, see if we can catch another one. Like I said, there's absolutely loads here. I'm really trying to avoid the temptation of catching ones that are so close to me that you could catch them on the pole, because that would defeat the object. It is worth mentioning, when you're doing this, it's quite impactful, quick fishing. Like I said, you can even try and pick out the bigger fish. So line wise, I've got fairly strong line. I've got 8-pound line on, and I've got an 0.23 hook link. So nothing pretty much is ever going to break that. As long as you set your clutch, you can be pretty guaranteed that you should be able to land most fish. But yeah, it's all about staying positive and just keep repeating the process. That was a nice one. That's right on one's nose. Oh, is he going to take it? He's looking at it. I'm just going to leave it there because it's looking at it. Swirling. Swam away. Oh, I thought that was going to be the one then. Like I said, you do get a little bit of a... In fairness, he may have swiped my pellet there, because I've come back without a pellet on, but sometimes you get a feel for when you think one's going to grab it. Put that back on. It is also an absolute must to wear polarized glasses when you're doing this. I actually a little bit probably over the top. I carry 2 different, because different days, different lens colors makes a massive difference. So I tend to have a darker lens and a lighter lens. A yellow lens is really good, and then you have like a grey duller lens as well, and you'll find that certainly on certain different occasions that you'll be able to see fish better with one lens than you will rather than the other. So it might seem excessive, but carrying a couple is definitely worth it. That one stopped, turned round. Oh, swam off. They're very, very cagey. Luckily, the sun has just dipped behind this tree and I'm sitting in the shade, but I can guarantee you, sitting in that sun, it's going to be absolutely roasting. My phone's gave me the signal it's too hot to work, so and that was sitting on my side tray, which is in the sun, so you can see how hot it's going to be. But what I'll do is I'll probably catch, or try and catch, another 1 or 2 more, and then we'll have a look at the baits and potentially that other rig as well, because it is worth having a go with a couple of different variations of rigs to see which one's better. So this is the one where I think it's going to be the best. That was a rubbish cast, that's coming straight in. I think it's going to be the best today because we're trying to land it right in front of them. But that might not be the case, and I might be wrong, and we might pick the other rig up and it'll be better. So it is always worth having a couple of different variations. But let's give this a little bit longer, see if we can catch a couple more before we have a look at what else you can do to improve your catch rate. Right, we had a little change up. I must admit the accuracy definitely got better. Yeah, as you've got to think, you're fishing this style of fishing, you're having hundreds and hundreds of casts in a day, but they started to get a little bit wary of the plop going in, which is where I said that first rig that you saw me with my homemade waggler, well, say homemade waggler, one cut in half, that's where that comes into its own. I had a few fish on that in quite quick succession, but then it went a little bit funny and they started to pay attention to the splash and they didn't really like it. So that's where the next rig comes in, which is why I'm now playing a fish on that rod. So what I'll do is I'll get this one in. It'll be a great opportunity just to tell you and talk you through the different styles, because it is very, very minimal, but there is a difference and it could catch you a few extra fish. Oh, that was a terrible bit in there. It could catch a few extra fish in a match. Like, the only difference really is the float, but it's how you feed it, how they land, makes a huge, huge difference. Sorry, when I say feed it, is how you get them to feed in and around your float. Right, let's hopefully this one calms down. It's calmed down. I don't know if it's going to be worth risking holding it up. Maybe we'll have a quick look at it. Another mega fish. Again, you can pick them out because they do look really good in the water, but gonna let that one go and we'll show you the difference in the rig. Like I said, it's exactly the same rod, same line, same everything, apart from the float. It's just back to the more conventional 3 gram waggler. Still the foam waggler, but it's heavier, so one, I can cast it further. The fish have definitely gone even further out from where that little dobbin waggler comes in. So 3 gram, this is a matrix foam pellet waggler on a normal waggler adapter, 3 below it, 1 above it, just to hold it in place. But the difference you'll notice is the depth that I'm fishing. So even though these fish, we're trying to lay a bait right in front of them, I'm fishing this deeper because this float makes much more of a noise. Where I've already said the little float that we were using, they started to get a bit wary of it. So they clearly don't want that noise at the moment. It might change, and then you find, you know, in another 10-15 minutes you're picking the other rod back up. But what you're trying to do with this one, it's very important to stop your float and flick your pellet past it. So where I'm looking here, this is the shallowest I'd probably ever fish. Probably 2 foot. I'd fish this up to 4 foot. So if fish really start to scare away from any noise of the float, then pick up one of these wagglers and fish it a bit deeper. Like I said, 3 foot, 4 foot, something like that. Now what you need to do, again, you need to practice and it gets harder. You now need to stop your float 2 foot in front of the fish, your pellet kicks forward, and then hopefully they're just actually acting on that little pellet kick. So it's a little bit different to the one that we were doing in the fact that there we were trying to almost land the waggler on top of their head, because it made a big difference in, you get the double splash, you get a little nice splash of the float, then you get the pellet, and they liked it to start with. but they very quickly changed away from it. So like I said, this one, the only difference really is the way you're trying to make them feed. I'm trying to land it, that was perfect. My float is about 2 foot short of that fish. That pellet's now going to sink down, and obviously you are getting a slightly longer fall, but once it's gone past, let's say, a foot, 2 foot, you're probably wasting your time, because you know, you can see these fish, they're only a few centimeters under the surface. So we're just going to keep trying that again. There's a group of them out there. If I can stop my waggler in front of them, just overshot it. The waggler went right in amongst them and they've spooked off it. That's where, if I would have done that with my other float, I would have probably got away with it, but that was a missed opportunity. Again, it was just my casting. I went about 2 foot too far. There's quite a few fish out there now, but it's just a case of repeat it. And don't get too angry with yourself with the casting. It will get better and better in time, and it's quite easy to be quite critical of it, but it's not an easy thing to do. Like, how far is this going out there? Probably 25, 30 meters, and you are trying to literally stop your float and ping a pellet past it right in front of a fish. You know, you put all those into the equations, give yourself a little bit of slack. If you don't get it first time, reel it in, chuck it out there and doing it again. And the other thing that I did notice with the other rig, if you get the opportunity, a couple of bites at the cherry, if you overshoot it, or there's a fish that's a bit closer to it, I caught a couple where you just wind the pellet into them. So as you see them swimming past, you can almost just sort of wind the pellet. As you're winding in, it will come up to the surface again and then just let it fall past it. And that's, again, when they're not liking the noise of the float going in, it's another way of sneaking a pellet in front of them, is to let them reel it in, sink past them, and you'll catch them like that. So let's give this one another go. I've only had 3 or 4 casts on this before I hooked that fish. So I'm going to give this one another couple of minutes, see if we can catch another one, and then we'll talk you through a couple of bait options that you can do if you are going to have a go at this mugging waggler. They've definitely responded to the bit of the separation between the waggler and the bait. So it's weird, because at the start they were well happy to have that little mugging waggler plopped on them, and you'd say this is more of a traditional waggler, but because you're fishing such a light one, 3 gram foam, you can still fish it as a mugging waggler as well. But it definitely is that separation. But while we just mentioned it there, bait, so let's have a little look what we've used today. So this morning, the first thing we started on the little mugging waggler was these. They're the brand new muggers from Dynamite. They're slow sinking pellets, and you can literally just hook them on. They're nice and soft, but having the slow sinking bait that's when it's perfect for that instance when you're trying to cast it on a fish's head. Slightly slower fall makes for a bigger time frame for them to grab it. So that's what I started on, and that's, you know, they've been very, very good. To be honest, they are very new. I haven't used them loads, but today they've been superb. But really, with this mugging waggler style, you can use whatever you want. And you know, I've got some in this tub here, I've got some 6mm. That's what I tend to use on the sort of the more conventional waggler, should I say, because I feel like I use this when I want a bit of less noise. So having a smaller hook bait for me just makes a little bit more sense when you're trying to be a little bit more stealthy. So when I'm flicking it away from my float, I use a smaller bait, but apart from that, well happy to give those a go. If not, I've just got a selection here, 6mm, 8mm, got some different colours, some wafters, all sorts of different baits will work doing this. Maggots is another really good one because they sink nice and slow. You could use meat. So I guess what I'm saying is you could probably use any bait that you wanted to, but for me, it's sort of an 8mm slow sinking pellet if I'm doing what I was doing at the start, where you're trying to land it on the heads. And if I'm trying to get a bit of separation between my float and my bait because they're a little bit scared of the float, then I use a slightly smaller pellet and just try and keep that nice little plop with a 6mm behind it. That's what I tend to do, but let me know if you have different preferences to hook baits, because everyone is slightly different. and it's always interesting to see what people are saying. But there's definitely less fish that are moving round now, so it's going to get harder and harder to target them. Oh, I've just reeled into one there. Definitely going to get harder to target them because you've got less to go at. When you're spotting less fish, obviously you've got less opportunities to swing it in front of one to see if you can catch it. I think I did mention earlier, but if you are in a situation, I'm not going to do it because I'm on camera, but if you stand up, you'll see a lot more. I'm sure I did mention that earlier. There's still quite a few swimming out there, to be honest with you. It's just a case of getting that float. Remember, you've got to land it softly, flick your pellet past, give yourself 10-15 seconds, if not repeat the process. And it is probably worth a mention, this waggler I'm fishing now, apart from being 3 gram, if I was fishing a conventional pellet waggler where I'm feeding bait, I'd probably use a 4 gram. So don't feel like you can't sort of have a combination of the both. Like I said, I've got 6 mils in this tub, and I've got a little catapult here. You could feed straight in front of you and fish a normal pellet waggler. So you could fish within your feed, and then you've still got a nice little light setup that if you see one, like that one over there, there's a fish, you can just have a cast at that and then see if that works. If it doesn't, you've still got an area where you're fishing within your feed. So yeah, the one thing I would say is with the out and out mugging wag that we show you first, I wouldn't feed at all. You literally are putting it on their head and you're trying to catch them that way. But certainly with this sort of 3 gram size, you can definitely have a hybrid crossover. So if you wanted to have an area where you're feeding, absolutely feels like free, you can do so. And every now and again, plop your waggler in there, see if they're within your feed. And like I said, you've still got a lovely setup to be able to just do what I have been doing, sitting here, head on the swivel, try and find a fish, keep plopping in front of them, and they will grab it. So that's my next job. I'm going to catch one more for you. I'm going to keep looking out for fish. There's the big wise ones left that are still not picked up a pellet today. They're still out there to be caught. So let's see if we can catch one of them. But yeah, this rig is definitely, the last little period, been better, just getting the separation between the float and the bait. There we go. Another one pretty quickly, to be honest with you. Really sort of starting to work it out now. But what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to call this one the last fish, because I think I've been through everything that you need to know if you want to have a go at fishing this sort of mugging waggler style. This definitely wasn't the fish that I thought it was. I cast it at a big ghostie that was swimming around. This is obviously one that was swimming next to it or near it, and that is something that happens quite a lot. So that's why I said after you've cast in, leave it for 10 or 15 seconds, because quite often, wow, mouthful of F1 juice, quite often you find that the one you think you're fishing for, there'll be some sitting underneath it, so it's worth leaving it out there. But an F1 to finish one, and you wouldn't need many of those. And big F1s, they're getting lots bigger here now in reef, and it's good to see them coming through. But yeah, there we go. Hopefully that all made sense to you. If I went over anything that didn't make sense, please do drop me a message and I'll answer the comments perfectly. But break it down again, it's that sort of light mugging waggler straight in front of them. That's what I would start with. If not, I'd switch over to this, fish a bit deeper, and like I said, with this one I'd happily go 4 foot to get that separation between your float and your hook bait even more. But yeah, if there's anything I need to go over or questions, pop them in the comments. I hope that you've enjoyed it and it all makes sense. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because we'll be back very soon with another Match Masterclass.